This video was sponsored by War Thunder. Let's start everything off with a question. Is it better to teach through punishment or through reward? Most single-player games use punishment as the main way to teach you how to approach them. You dodge at the wrong time, you die. Fall down a pit, you die. Fail to pick up that grenade, you die.
Job! What? Guys, it's not fucking... What?
And it's funny because when you do finally learn the solution, the only reward you normally have is not dying. It doesn't matter how many times you failed to overcome the obstacle at hand, how fast you cleared it, and most importantly, how stylishly you did it. This leads to single-player games being more about following the intended path more than making your own. It makes them more about finding the solution, and not about making the solution. This doesn't mean that there is absolutely no room for player expression. It just means that as long as you complete the objective, lane play isn't really separated from true creativity. However, there are many different exceptions to this, and there's one that stands out from the rest. I always found it quite hard to describe ULTRAKILL, so I thought I would show you what it is instead. This game is fast, it's explosive, it's really bloody, and it's really hard. But it's also eerie, unsettling, and weirdly calm occasionally. For as many times you feel like an unstoppable force, you also feel like a small ant that is just way over their head. But most importantly, it's stylish, as it allows for true player expression. It doesn't exactly guide you in a specific path as much as it just narrates the path you decided to take. What do I mean by that? Well, by now you have probably noticed the big block of text on your right. That is the style meter. It serves as a reflection of every action you take, and more importantly, how stylish you make it. And the more points you have, the higher your rank will be. The game doesn't just encourage you to find a solution, it actively incentivizes you to create your own solutions through rewarding you different ranks depending on how creative and effective you are. Then at the end of each level, adding up your style rank with your kills, your time, and your tries gives you a final score for the entire level. This is what teaching through reward looks like. The style meter doesn't care about if you overcame the obstacle at hand or not, but instead about how you did it, and rewards you accordingly. However, the style meter isn't exactly revolutionary, nor is it really a necessity, because the style meter is merely a window that helps newer players see and experience the true genius design of ULTRAKILL. Mankind is dead, blood is fuel, hell is full. This is the only context you are given, and it will be your motto for the entire game. As you go down into hell, you will start to piece together why you are here. The first big clue comes from the inside of your enemies: blood. By killing your enemies, you can absorb their blood to regenerate. This is the only way to gain health. You are then introduced to walking, punching, sliding, jumping, dashing, wall climbing, and ground pounding. With this, you are taught the first rule of ULTRAKILL's combat: you decide your pace. ULTRAKILL places very few limitations on how you can move and where you can go. You aren't bounded by gravity or wind resistance or anything like that. You are a blood-fueled robot. The only broken bones you know are the ones of your enemies. Every one of your movements feels slippery and floaty, but at the same time, you are always in total control, and you only ever lose momentum if you want to. At first, this freedom of movement can be overwhelming, and really odd to get a grasp of, but it's intuitive enough that in just a few hours, you will be moving like this. Momentum transferring also helps with further developing your movement. You can ground pound and instantly transfer all energy gathered into a higher jump. You never need to stop. Walls are nothing but stepping stones to reach further, and all it takes to use them is your body and a little bit of creativity. Though, this comes with a catch. The armies of hell know you don't ever need to stop, and soon, they won't allow you to stop. As your enemies become faster and more erratic, your opportunities for healing will become lesser and lesser, demanding you to be agile and explosive at all times, and failing to do that might result in death. Or even worse, it will make you unstylish. This freedom of movement really makes you feel like an unstoppable force. Well, It turns out that you aren't the only robot that came to hell, and you also aren't the only robot that is fueled by blood. There are plenty more of machines that work exactly like you. Hell is full, and just like you, they all want to get as much fuel as they can. But you know, aren't blood-fueled robots a really stupid idea? You would be correct. Perhaps that's why mankind is dead. But so far we can't say anything for certain. There can only be one of us in this town, partner. Huh. This game is quite hard. Despite your practically limitless speed, the game still keeps up with you all throughout the campaign. Your foes will move just as fast and hit just as hard as you. ULTRAKILL demands perfect movement, and as you learn to become faster and more precise, your foes do the same, remaining closely behind you until they finally catch up. And although healing is a relatively easy task, taking damage is just as easy. It normally takes only 3 or 4 hits of the weakest attacks in the game for you to die. Funnily enough, the common enemies you will face all throughout your journey are the thing you need to worry the least about. Bosses are the real threat here.
Hey, you wanna play dodgeball?
The ultimate test of everything you have learned. You will die the most fighting them, and when you do finally beat them, guess what? Oh, they show up again, this time as regular enemies. Oh, you think fighting a ferryman is hard? Try fighting him in a 5x5 meter room while beams of light fall from the sky. Just prepare yourself for what's to come. It will not be nice. Huh, this is actually kinda nice. Well, it turns out that ULTRAKILL doesn't take inspirations from the usual depictions of hell in fiction, and instead takes place in the 9 layers of hell. Also, I lied to you. By the time you finish the first boss, you aren't even inside hell yet, only in its entrance. But first, let's talk about today's sponsor, War Thunder. Available for free on both PC and consoles, War Thunder is the most dynamic and fun vehicle combat game ever made. Take command over 2,500 different tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships. War Thunder has one of the most realistic atmospheres in gaming, with top-notch graphics and sound design, which pull you into its world, making you feel like you are actually inside a true war zone. But don't worry, the gameplay of War Thunder is just as carefully crafted as its atmosphere. Relish in the defeat of your opponents by watching with your X-ray camera the damage your shot caused to the individual components of your enemy's tank. Now this is a real military game. Join over 70 million players in epic PvP battles by clicking on my link available in the description and in the pinned comments down below. And if you're new or haven't played in half a year, signing up with my link will give you multiple rewards, such as premium vehicles, an exclusive vehicle decorator, and a lot more. Thank you War Thunder for sponsoring this video. As you progress through the game, you unlock more and more weapons. All of them are decently powerful, but as time goes on, they become less and less effective by themselves, because their true utility comes from how you combine them with each other to create your own unique combos. This is the second rule of ULTRAKILL's combat. Experimentation is key. There's a gun that throws coins, and when you shoot them, they ricochet into an enemy. The coin works on all hits can attack, so if you fire 2 coins and switch to your real cannon, then the shotgun fires a grenade that explodes on impact, but if I hit the grenade mid-air with a Maurice cannon, then once again, creativity plays an essential role. ULTRAKILL is all about asking, what happens if I do this? It's almost like cooking in a way. The different ingredients are all good by themselves, but it's when you combine everything that you end up with a genuinely pleasant experience. On one moment you will be barely making it out alive from a boss, and then on the other you will be killing it before the health bar even fully appears. Combos are what make ULTRAKILL's combat so incredible. The options are limitless, and it's up to you to figure out what you want to do. I personally have created my own combo. I call it Maurice Smashing. It's not very good. Combining your tools is an obligation if you want to progress through this game, but the best ULTRAKILL players also use their enemies as tools. What do I mean by that? Well, let me show you. ULTRAKILL isn't just a game about overcoming roadblocks, it's also about using them to your advantage. Obstacles are opportunities. A bad ULTRAKILL player sees the Maurice as a threat to avoid, but a good player sees it as an opportunity. Most enemies have specific weaknesses that you can use against them. Drones can be thrown into enemies. Street cleaners have explosive gas tanks on their back. Virtues send enemies into the air, and insurrectionists send them into the ground. How you position yourself in each encounter is extremely important, but how you position your enemies is just as important. And if you do this correctly, then you won't even need to fire a single shot to clear out an entire room. Every one of your enemies also serves as a reliable healing source, so you'll be surprised with how handy some enemies come in sticky situations. That is until this guy shows up. You aren't limited to using your enemies' bodies to your advantage, but also their attacks through parrying. 90% of enemies can be parried in one way or another. You can parry melee attacks to cause a stun, turn projectiles directed at you into your own. It's essential if you want to keep moving, since successfully parrying completely restores all of your stamina, and you will definitely need that for the future. It's the most important part of this game, and it's the one that allows for the most creativity. You would be surprised with how many parry opportunities you will come across, and how most of them are completely viable. So go crazy and punch everything you can until you get a white flash. Discover for yourself what there is to parry. This is what ULTRAKILL is all about. Being creative, finding different paths, creating combos, using obstacles to complete your goals. Look beyond what you know. Experiment with what you have, make strategies, and learn. ULTRAKILL loves to toy around with your expectations of what's to come. Hell is a non-Euclidean space, so it doesn't follow any rules and just sort of shapes itself into whatever form it wants. All of the layers have a completely different theme from each other, but they also don't really follow their own themes to heart, and will subvert them often. As soon as you start becoming used to your surroundings and to the general theme of a layer, the game subverts you and puts you in a completely different location from before. Nothing is constant, and most importantly, you are alone. Most living beings here are incapable of any rational thought, and the ones that are don't communicate or follow you on your path. Before we move on, I gotta warn you that we are getting into spoiler territory here, so if you haven't yet, I recommend you to go on Steam right now and buy ULTRAKILL. Or don't, you're the one at loss anyway. So, enter Gabriel. Books detailing him are present all throughout the game. Murals have been made in his honor. He is the first living, breathing character with a presence that can be felt all throughout your journey. And then you finally meet him.
Machine, turn back now.
His voice echoes through the gluttony layer, emitting power and confidence. What you are about to face is beyond anything you have fought.
Behold!
But hey, it's nothing that the power of capitalism can solve. Gabriel is the first enemy that finally surpasses you in both speed and power. He is faster than you, hits harder than you, taunts you.
You are less than nothing.
He constantly teleports into your blind spots and swiftly attacks you from behind. He demands your reflexes to always be on point. Otherwise... After setting you up throughout the first act as this unstoppable force of nature, capable of shredding through anything in its path, Gabriel picks up your ego and shatters it into tiny pieces by outpacing you at every move while mocking and belittling you. You aren't an invincible god, you aren't a legendary warrior, you are scraps and metal. And if you want the title of badass, then you'll have to earn it by fighting beings that are at a such greater level compared to you that they don't even need to give it all, because it's practically impossible. Gabriel is very prideful. To him, being defeated by a human is impossible, but the thought of a machine, a mere object created by a human, something that is not even mortal beating him, it breaks him.
You insignificant fuck! This is not over!
When he goes up to his superiors and tells them about his recent defeat, they mock him, they ridicule him, and they punish him. Gabriel has been given 24 hours to live, and if he doesn't defeat you, then he will be executed. You have taken everything from him, leaving only anger in its place. And with such fury, even metal will bleed. And here, one of the best rivalries in gaming starts. The player, forced to die by Gabriel's hands for hours on end, and Gabriel, who had his loyalty questioned and his status removed after an embarrassing defeat, now find each other once more in the climax of the second act. Now the true battle has begun. Gabriel already starts off in rage from his last conflict, and this time, he gives it his all. Everything about him has been pumped up to 11. He is even faster and a lot more erratic than before. He substituted his light constructs with actual weapons which track you upon being thrown. You cannot just rely on dodging anymore, and must also parry his attacks. Since the arena is filled with water, any electricity-based attacks are now reflected onto you if you are not careful enough. Despite this, you beat him again. With only a few hours to live, Gabriel sits tightly and meditates. Being defeated by the machine had changed him. Many questions arose to his mind. Questions about himself, the council, everyone around him. How many had he killed? Who had it benefited? Was he any different from anyone else? The Council of the People was corrupt to the core and had tricked Gabriel, used him to condemn anyone who doesn't follow their twisted words as law. Hundreds upon thousands upon millions, following a broken system which he had enforced with utter violence. And it was all for nothing. Gabriel realized there was no difference in between him, the Council, the trapped husks, and even the machine that had defeated him. Everyone bleeds the same blood. After coming to this conclusion, Gabriel suddenly found his true purpose. The intense feelings he had felt for the machine weren't resentment or rage, it was passion. The passion for fighting, for the sake of fighting, pushing yourself beyond your limits just because you can. He became just like you. Despite being given a very clear objective, it's very obvious that the machine is doomed to fail from the very start. Blood is finite, and hell is rapidly shrinking to the point of non-existence. You are bound to run out of fuel by the end, and yet, you still move forward and push yourself, all because you can. And now, despite starting out as your biggest opposing force, Gabriel's interests are fully aligned with yours. It's almost like a really distorted love story in between the player and the true protagonist. A bittersweet tale in which, despite both of their deaths being certain, you can't possibly predict how it will end. After a lot of thinking, Gabriel decides that the best course of action is to make a peaceful offer to the council and... A love letter to boomer shooters, a dedicatory to Devil May Cry, an all-imperfect love story. There are layers upon layers of depth in this game that had me invested for a lot longer than I expected. Which is why it pains me to see people look at it from surface level. This game is not just a Doom clone, and calling it just a Doom clone undermines the whole experience. The atmosphere, the gameplay, the narrative, all of them featuring such a high level of quality that you wouldn't even figure out that this was made by a crew of only a handful of people. This makes me wonder, if a solo game developer can make an unfinished early access game that features so much depth that it managed to create a cult following, become one of the most loved games on Steam, and glued me to it for 250 hours, then why can't you, Blizzard?
May your woes be many, and your days few.
Remember to check out War Thunder for free, and using my link in the description will give you multiple rewards, such as premium vehicles, an exclusive vehicle decorator, and so much more. And also follow me on Instagram to get previews of future videos.